Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I would like to introduce yet another astronomical facility, Molėtai Astronomical Observatory, and the telescope that we'll be offering to the users, not only of our project, but also to those who are interested in having access to the instruments that our project is going to provide. One thing I would like to say immediately that all of the telescopes that we have, they're relatively small, but it's in no way to say that these are inferior instruments. On the contrary, these are, in many cases, these are very good instruments, but one has to have a few things in mind. One is that these are smaller telescopes that limits the photon collecting power of these instruments. Then also, except for the not perhaps, our instruments are located in places where astroclimate is not perfect. So that's another thing to take into account. And then for this, one has to be very, say, careful and very targeted about the selection of the scientific tasks that one wants to perform with these telescopes or achieve with these telescopes. So I would like to focus on a few things in my presentation. One is what we have, I will mention what we have at Molėtai. Then what kind of science we actually do with the instrumentation that we have, and then how those who would be interested in accessing to observing time with our telescope, how can they do that? So next slide, please. Okay, so we are, as Conrad already mentioned, we are located in the north, and but in terms of astroclimate, we are more similar to northern countries, and at our observatory we have 3 telescopes, 1.65 meter Ritchie-Chrétien telescope. Then there is a smaller 0.6 meter telescope, and yet one more, which is a Maksutov telescope. Traditionally, observatory has a strong focus on photometry and on photometric research. But since 2015, we got a new instrument, a new spectrograph that was made at Yale University and installed to work with the 1.65 meter telescope. And I'm going to talk about this instrument in a moment, and that's precisely the instrument that we will be offering to access via ChETEC-INFRA TNA, sorry. Yeah, in terms of astroclimate, I already mentioned that we are located in the north, but we are not very much different from the other observatories that are part of our project. So let's say that we have on average about 80 clear nights per year. Average seeing is between 2-3 arc seconds normally. Sometimes when the weather conditions are good, we can go down to 1.5 or in extreme cases even lower, but that's of course not really an ideal site for astronomical observations, and one has to have this in mind. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the telescope we will be offering for TNA is a 1.65 meter Ritchie-Chrétien telescope. The field of view is 35 arc seconds, and one thing which is nice about this telescope that it is not exactly a robotic telescope, but it can be operated remotely. But perhaps from the perspective of our project, this is not very important, although one might keep this in mind if one would like to take part in the observations. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the instrument that we will be offering with the 1.65 meter telescope is US. That's the single object Echelle fiber spectrograph. It has 3 resolutions, and with the higher one can go up to 68,000, which is pretty high. And what else is attractive perhaps is the wavelength coverage, which is uninterrupted, essentially uninterrupted wavelength coverage of 480 nanometers. Yeah, of course, the sensitivity in the blue is lower. The throughput of the spectrograph is about 25%. It's lower for the system, of course, but still one can get reasonable spectra with reasonable exposures. But realistically speaking, I would say this, that stellar abundances can be possible up to magnitude 10, perhaps a little bit lower than that, and radial velocities. For radial velocities, one can go down to magnitude 12. So yeah, yes, again, this is a small instrument. It has its own limitations, but yeah, it offers also some possibilities for doing interesting research. For those who would be interested, I listed the address of the homepage of the observatory, so there is a lot of information there about the instruments, and of course you may also check what's there, but you are always welcome to get in touch with me and ask about what you would specifically need, and maybe we could discuss all this. Okay, next slide, please. All right. So yeah, so now I would like to mention a few things that we are doing at Molėtai. So one of these examples is MINS survey. That stands for Measuring Intermediate Metallicity Neutron Capture Elements. This is a project that is led by Gabriele Cescuti and involves quite a few people in Europe in different observatories, different places, and we are using different telescopes. And then Molėtai Observatory and 165-meter telescope is one of those. This is an example where I think a strong point of this project, and you can, if you are interested, by the way, you would be more than welcome to join our breakout session for the working packages number 5 tomorrow morning, and so Gabriela will tell more about the project. But what I see as a strong point of this project is that we do a lot of objects with relatively small telescopes, not always, but in many cases they're relatively small telescopes, and then single object spectrographs. But when we apply to a number of telescopes and when we are targeted, we are actually reaching quite a large number of stars in total. And I think this is a good strategy to go. So this is something one might keep in mind for thinking about different projects with the telescopes that will be available via our project. Next slide, please. Another project is done by our people locally at Molėtai Observatory. They focused on the follow-up observations of test targets, potentially the stars that might harbor planets. And so they studied kinematical properties and abundances of quite a few elements. But then again, this is in my view, this is another example where one can choose a clever strategy. So in this case, as you can see, the targets are fairly bright, and when they are bright, of course, then you can do short exposures on your target, and then you can get quite a number of targets in the end. So I think this is another way to go with these small telescopes. And next slide, please. And finally, one of the program that has been going at Molėtai Observatory, not with the US initially, with another instrument, in fact, that was the Corval radial velocity instrument. So that's ongoing for about 20-30 years, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a very interesting project where actually, even given that we have limitations in terms of telescope size and also limitations in terms of weather, continuous monitoring of objects that could not be covered at other observatories, because that would be, really big program, and that would take a lot of time, and it may become, in fact, it would become prohibitively expensive in many senses. So that is something that has been undertaken at Molėtai Observatory since, as I said already, quite a few years ago, and these results are also promising. And this is, I think, also might be interesting from the perspective of our project ChETEC-INFRA, where we also have plans regarding binary stars and the regular, say, observations of these objects in order to determine their orbital parameters as well as abundances of chemical elements. Next slide, please. So this was my say overview of what we've been doing at Molėtai, and I think the takeaway message, first of all, how we can or how you could access this instrumentation is our project. That's ChETEC-INFRA, and we will have a total of 72 nights available for our project. So that's for 4 years, sorry. And applications should be made via the ChETEC-INFRA TNA platform. So you can check once again the talk of Konrad, and in case you would be interested, but always feel free to contact us at Molėtai, as well as contact people at other telescopes. We will be certainly happy to help you with preparation of your proposal. Applications will be reviewed at our observatory. I mean, they are reviewed 4 times a year, but that's exactly what's gonna be the case for the ChETEC-INFRA. So we are basically on the same page here as well. And the mode of operation that we offer is service mode. That means that you will not be required to come and spend time or actually do your observations yourself, but we will do that for you. On the other hand, I already mentioned that the telescope has a possibility for remote observing. So I mean, this can be settled. This can be discussed, and then we can settle on the suitable solution after the discussion. I mean, to find a way what is most suitable for you. And so to conclude, I would really strongly encourage you to apply for time to our telescope, because despite being small and located not in the most favorable astroclimate sites, or sites that are not most favorable from an astroclimate point of view, still, I think, in my view, I'm strongly convinced that these telescopes are providing excellent opportunities for doing excellent science. Yeah, one has to be clever in this and inventive, but that's always the case when we do things in science, right? So yeah, so I strongly encourage you to apply for time, and thank you very much.